Hello and welcome to American Family Insurance DreamBank. Thank you all for tuning in today. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe in the transformative power of dreams and are committed to helping you pursue yours. I'm Monica. I'm a dreamer and dream curator here at American Family Insurance. For those of you that are attending, that have attended our virtual or in-person sessions before, welcome and thanks again for tuning in. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to DreamBank. So as I mentioned, at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. It's why we created DreamBank. This is a inspirational community destination and digital experience dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to our immersive signature programs, there's something for everyone. All of our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. This is the Impact for Good series, and today we have mindset coach, educator, and founder of DreamTrust.us, Ryan Grady is here with us. Ryan is leading us, parents and students, on a path to shape our mindsets and become more flexible, confident, and purposeful, even under stress and through the pressures of everyday life. Please offer a warm DreamBank welcome to Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
Monica, thank you so much. Appreciate you. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about a really important topic, establishing a growth mindset within your family. As Monica said, my name is Ryan Grady. And I am going to come today with three lenses that I'm going to put on as we talk about this important topic. The first is as an educator. I've been in education for now nearly 20 years. It's kind of crazy for me to think about that. I have gone everywhere from preschool, where I was the president of a cooperative preschool, all the way to now college. I'm a licensed teacher, licensed principal. I'm also a certified life coach. I've been that way for the last 10 years, supporting kids from about the age of 16 to 24 and their families, hundreds of young people, thousands of hours of coaching. I'm going to bring that lens with me as well, and then also the lens of a parent, a very humbled parent of three girls. So these are some lenses that I'm bringing in to this kind of very important topic today. I want to start off with a quote that I read recently. It says this: "Listen to your life. See it for the fathomless mystery it is, and the boredom and pain of it no less than in this excitement and gladness. Touch, taste, smell your way to the holy and hidden heart of it, because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is grace." Life itself is grace. See it for the fathomless mystery it is. If I'm going to be real honest with you all, COVID life, post-COVID life, I think I think a lot of you all have been kind of just surviving, to be honest, doing my best to check the boxes and try to keep hope alive, but oftentimes not doing a good enough job at tending to the mystery of it. And I bring that up because when we're thinking about growth, we often are thinking about, goals and trying to move forward and look to the future. But in the reality of it, the best way to have a growth mindset is to be present in the moment right now, because when you're present, you open yourself up. You open yourself up to opportunity, and you open yourself up to grace. And I think that is a big part of what we're doing. When you're growing into adulthood, I've realized that some of the biggest challenge is to be both present and to tend to your responsibilities and the expectations that you set for yourself and that others set for you. It's really difficult to do both. But today we're going to try to take a look at how you just do that. Okay. So, about 8 years ago, I started coaching students and started to see a little bit of a change in some of the needs that my students had. I started to see a little bit more anxiety than I've ever really felt before or seen before, depression, distress. That was 8 years ago. Since then, I've seen it go up every year throughout the ages. And so now it is at a point where I think we all can kind of, when we're talking to young people, and maybe when we're, even if we're being honest, see it in ourselves, that we have this challenged perspective, I would say. And I think that I think we all kind of are starting to realize that we're losing the script a little bit and we need to get back to it. And so I think I tell my students, I tell the clients that I work with, hey, we're two things, right, in life. We're biology, us humans are biology, and we're story. That's what we're really made up of. And if we want to move forward, and if we want to grow, yes, we can alter our biology a little bit, right? We can eat better, we can sleep better, we can exercise. We could even maybe alter our chemistry a little bit, but we definitely have control over our story. Because that's where a lot of our growth is going to be unlocked, is in how we see ourselves and how we see and understand our future. And so I think when we talk about creating a growth set within a family, that's a lot where I want to spend a lot of my time. In that last slide, I talked about perfectionism. That's definitely a trend that I've been seeing when it comes to working with young people, is that there is a lot of that, right? There's this thought, and I think we're experiencing as adults too, as we kind of go through all the insecurity of just being a parent, is this worry that any small mistake is going to be a big mistake. It's going to be the thing that keeps us from success. It's going to be the thing that leads to ruin or embarrassment or pain. And as a parent and as a young person, I think there's no way to do it perfectly. I think what we need to do is change our expectations to just good. And so that is where I wanted to say. So this quote comes from Jill Churchill. I just altered it a little bit. But essentially, I think we need to take the pressure off. I feel like a lot of us are going through life, and it's like a game of musical chairs. We're hearing the music, but we're not enjoying it. We're just waiting for the music to turn off and then scramble for a chair. And hoping that, in this zero-sum game that we've kind of built in our head, that when someone wins, that means that I'm going to lose. And I think that we need to change the game. We need to think about the game a little bit differently, right? I don't think it's about this kind of zero-sum, I win, you lose, you win, I lose. I think we need, while the world is competitive and we can't deny that, I think we need to listen to the music, enjoy the music, and maybe create a new game. So today, I don't have the way. I'm not perfect. I am far from it. I am simply providing a perspective. I'm hoping that when you all finish listening to me today, you're going to have a few more insights, maybe become a little bit more flexible, confident, purposeful, supportive, and empowering when it comes to your dreams and the dreams of those that you love. Because if you're trying to create a growth mindset within your family, I think that's where it starts, is that point of insight, and always kind of trying to find a way to get to better or more in alignment with who you are and who you want your family to be. So what I'm going to ask is, I created 2 free documents for you all. And I'm going to ask Monica if she can go ahead and throw those in the chat. She's going to provide those to you later as well. But essentially, you're going to get 2 documents by just watching this today. Number 1 document is a reflection journal. It's a journal that has a bunch of questions, rich, awesome questions that you can engage in for yourself and for those that you love. Create a conversation around some of the deeper points of life, and getting to build a self-awareness for you and for others, okay? So that is a great document. It's like 58 pages of really good material. Is yours for free. Thank you so much for showing up today. The second is what I call the learn model. And it's some really effective strategies and how you can support other people to grow and develop and create a space where people are growing and developing. If that's what we're trying to do as a family, I got some real good tips, and we're going to share some of them today, but there's a whole bunch more in there for you. So those are all for free. Please take a look at it. I think you're going to get some real good value out of it. So I created those documents and I created this presentation today from my own experiences as a coach, as an educator, and as a parent, but also from some really great books and authors. And here are 6 of them that I wanted to share with you, just in case you want to dig in and get a little bit deeper on this process. The first is Carol Dweck's Mindset. It's all about how you go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And it's a really powerful piece of work. The second is The Gardener and the Carpenter by Alison Gopnik. It is about thinking about parenting more in the lines of how do I create an environment where people thrive rather than how do I get my kid or my child or loved one to be a certain way, which is more of the carpenter engineering approach to parenting. The third is simplicity parenting. How do we make this all less complex and get back to the basics? The fourth is Carol Carter's Stop Parenting, Start Coaching. You know, at each stage of parenting, we have to use a different set of tools, right? And she suggests, hey, start when your kids get to the age of being able to be coached, start learning how to coach them. And I think it's a powerful perspective to consider. The fifth is The Blessing of a Skinned Knee, which is a really beautiful book about Jewish wisdom, where she incorporates that into parenting. And the sixth is The Secrets of Happy Families. We're going to take these different works and we're incorporating them into some of the suggestions that I'm bringing forth today. If you were to look at all 6 of those books and kind of what I'm trying to say today, I think it's all kind of encompassed by this really great quote by Julie Bogart. And she says, put connection ahead of expectation. Put connection ahead of expectation. Now, expectation sometimes we can think of as like, you know, in this family, we go to the perfect school, or we go get the perfect job, or we only have this kind of way, right? That's one kind of expectation. The other is, in this family, we're honest, we're kind, we work hard. Those are also expectations, regardless of how you and your family see it. These authors and myself would propose that when we're trying to support our youth, connection is paramount. And I think about that in a really kind of important way. So let me dive in to what I call is a cyclical dream model. Okay. I really believe when we're talking about growth mindsets, we're really talking about dreams, right? We're talking about where we want our life headed. And I say that there's 5 different stages of having a dream, okay? And I'll talk about it, but we can be stuck in all 5 stages, right? But I think a lot of times the first stage is stuck. And as a parent and as a person, usually we want to get out of being stuck as fast as possible because stuck is painful. And seeing our loved ones stuck is painful. And so we don't want to experience that. So we want to get out of there as fast as possible. When we're supporting other people, trying to rush people out of stuck with insights and rah-rah, champion them kind of with platitudes, I think all that stuff is actually not that helpful. The biggest part of helping people get unstuck is, number one, not trying to get them unstuck, to be honest. I think the biggest way of helping people unstuck is by the story. I had someone in my life who had a friend who was really stuck in a pretty dark place. And instead of trying to change them or fix them, this friend of mine knocked on that person's door and said, hey, what are you watching right now? I got some ice cream. I'd like to come over and watch it with you. And then she did just that for many days in a row. And that action that said, I'm not trying to fix you. I just want to be with you because I trust you that you're going to figure out your way out of it. And I love you unconditionally. And I'm not afraid of being in your sadness right now. Right? That action brought hope. And that hope led to insight. That's the second step. And so if you want to help people get unstuck, don't try to rush their stuckness. Just love them courageously. It will lead to insight. Insight, right, is about going ahead and starting to think like, oh, there's potential in my life, right? And when you're a parent, that could look kind of awkward sometimes, right? It could be like, hey, my kid wants to be an astronaut, an actor, or a lawyer, right? None of them really seem connected, but at least they have hope because there's a bunch of different options. At some point in our life, we need to move from insight to dreams, and we pick an angle, right? We say, this is the lifestyle I want, or this is the career I want, or this is the relationship I want. But we start to have a dream, very focused dream, and it starts to get more and more rich and more kind of clear, vivid, right? I always say that if you always are more likely to get to where you want if you can see it, right? And so the more you can see it, sometimes the stronger it is. And then you start planning it out. What are the rules of the game to make this thing happen? Whether it's me owning a house or me getting a career, like how do I do that? Like what are the rules? What are the strategies? What are the plans that I need to establish in order to get from here to there? And then you start moving it forward. And then sometimes you move it forward. And then maybe you realize, hey, I don't really want to do that at all. Actually, I want to do something different. That happens in life too. But we're always moving through this cycle. You can be stuck at 17, 25, 30, 40, 55, when you're retired. It's always going to be there. We're always going to be stuck. We can't avoid it. It's going to happen. The question is, how long do we want to be stuck, right? And how do we move through this process? And that's something we're going to be talking about. The other thing is if we think about all these stages, we can be stuck in all of them, right? We can be stuck in insight land where we don't want to pick a dream because we don't want to put shade on some of these things that are really important to us, right? We don't want to make the bad decisions, so we just stay in insight land, right? We can be stuck in dreamland where it's too scary to start planning, or maybe I don't know what questions to ask. I have to really put myself out there and actually really try to make this dream happen, and I might fail, right? So I don't even bother trying to plan it out. I just want to have this dream of being a doctor in my head and just tell people that's what I'm going to do, and I don't actually act on it, right? The other part is you can be stuck in plan land, right? Perfectionists love planning land, right? Because it's perfect. It's a perfect made up place in their head on paper, and you don't actually have to risk it from being imperfect. So you keep it in planning mode, right? Or you can be stuck in action mode. That's parenting, right? Is like, I got my family now, but I never really reflect on if it's giving me what I thought it was going to give me when I first decided to have a family. And so, because once I reflect on it, then it's going to send me back into this stage. I may be back in stuck land, or I may be having to go back to insights and try to figure out how do I get some ideas on how I want my family to live and to respond and grow, right? So this is the cyclical nature of having a dream. Dreams get snuffed in a lot of ways, right? But here are 9 of them, right? These are ways that I don't want to go too in depth, but these are how dreams get stuffed and stuck. You're ignored by maybe society, by people in your family, by people in your friends. You're isolated, you're judged, you're compared, you're doubted. You don't really have clarity. You don't know who you are, and don't know what you want. You're insecure, right? Maybe because of your environment, maybe just because of what's happening inside with self-doubt. You have a tough time being vulnerable and asking for help and showing that, like, I'm in pain, so you just go at yourself. These are all things, and in low energy, these are all things that snuff out dreams, okay? That said, these are the things that grow dreams. And this is what's in the dream journal, or I'm sorry, in the learn method, is these are the ways that we can incorporate, and I'm going to show how in a second, in our model, and how we can build this family that dreams together and grows together, right? But first, it all starts with listening, truly listening, building worthiness by being present, asking good questions, validating their responses, acknowledging their responses. This is a powerful way. If you in coaching, what they say is all you do is just listen, acknowledge, and validate. If that's all you do, you're doing like 90% of the job. And that's true with parents too. I think we all know it. You know, there was a recent study that said that parent relationships with their children is better than it's ever been in the history of doing these polls and surveys. So we're doing a good job of building these relationships, but there's something that's creating the anxiety and the fear. And so these are the things that we need to use what we already do really well and use that to help kind of relieve that and to move people forward, right? Experience. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you a story. I had a student, and she was junior, and she had no major. She didn't know what she wanted. And when I asked her, you know, basically the questions of who are you, like what are you interested in, what are you good at, all that stuff, she had no response. She didn't know how to answer those questions. Never really thought of them, and she didn't have anyone to really talk about it with. So that's what we did. We listened, and I asked questions, and I asked more questions, and I was curious. And I had no agenda. I wasn't trying to save her. I wasn't trying to rush her process, but I was trying to provide some value. And so I started creating these experiences for her. I said, hey, let's take this personality test together. Let's share some responses, right? Let's go ahead and have you ask 3 people that really love you, that you trust, what you're really good at. Just ask them, see what they say, and see if you agree or disagree with what they tell you, right? See if you see any trends. These are experiences that I would give her to try to create some self-awareness around herself. And then once she had this idea of who she was, I said, all right, let's find some majors. How do you feel about finding some majors? I asked the question, how do you feel about doing that? Are you interested in going to this place with me? And she would say yes. And we would go ahead and we had 3 majors that she could do that were kind of in alignment with who she was. And one of them was social work. And in my head, I was like, this is the one that I want her to at least consider, because in that major, they had to have 2 internships before they graduated. I was like, she needs to get some jobs and some, not just to like brighten up her resume, and because that's the way the game's played, but she needs some internships just to test her hypothesis on who she is and what she wanted. And so I went ahead, sent her on that journey. She decided she wanted to be a social work major. She took those 2 internships. She graduated relatively quickly. And then at the end of graduation, I found another internship that came across my desk, and I was like, hey, I think you should apply for this, because it's a little bit different, and it's going to, again, test your hypothesis on what you want for your life. And it was working in the private sector. And she went ahead and did the internship, loved it, and kind of said, this is kind of what I want to do. I think I want to go into either recruiting or HR. And so that's the path that she started on, was like a new path, right? So created this seeing her dream, getting to graduation, led to a new insight, which then set her on the path again, right? And we provided resources, and we nourished her dreams by never making her feel silly for any part of it, right? Just being curious, getting back to the mystery of life, right? So this is how we empower our dreams. I say that there are 4 key parts to a growth mindset, 4 key pillars to success, essentially. These are them. Number 1, self-awareness and self-reflection. I've talked a lot about it today already. I'm going to talk about it some more. Building trust in yourself, building trust in your future, in your world, in your God, whatever it is, but having faith that things are going to work out one way or another. Even if they're painful, it's going to work out. And then creating the discipline to move forward courageously, resiliently, vulnerably. These are 4 items that I think are really important. These are the items that in my family that I'm trying to grow, these are the 4 items that I try to help other families grow within theirs. these 4 items. Let's talk about each one in particular. The first is self-awareness, okay? So I had a student who I'd known since 14. I worked with him at 14, helped him graduate from high school, first in his family to do that. Then he became the first in the family to graduate from college, right? And then he was the first in his family to get a professional job. He was a business major and he started working in insurance. And he didn't like it. So he's in it for 2 years, didn't like it so much. And he called me up and said, hey, Mr. Grady, can we talk? Because I'm feeling a little stuck right now. And so we went ahead and I went back to the roots of it all, back to self-awareness. Who are you? What do you want? Let's go back to the roots. Let's start there. Let's ask these questions. I knew he had the answers because we've done this work before, but I want him to remember the answers, right? And we did the work. And lo and behold, he said, you know what? I haven't told this to anybody, but I want to be a firefighter. And I kind of feel silly. Why do you feel silly? Well, because I went ahead and got this degree. And it's not really going to help me become a firefighter. Now I have to kind of start back all over again, kind of wishing that he would have done it differently from the beginning. Well, we can't do that, right? And who knows, maybe that business degree is going to be helpful down the road. We don't know this, right? What we do know is you want to be a firefighter right now. So let's test out that hypothesis. So I was listening, I was acknowledging, I was validating, right? And said, let's go flesh it out. Let's make sure that it's aligned to who you are. And so I had him do these experiences. I said, hey, how do you think that you can go ahead and really see if this is the right career? Well, there's a fire station next door to my house. Maybe I can go and knock on the door and see, learn a little bit more. And he did that. He was a very social guy. And so he went ahead and learned a little bit more about being a firefighter. And every time he came back to the conversations with me, he would have a little bit more information, and that made him all the more excited about being a firefighter. So then it was like, well, let's figure out what the process is going to look like and how long it's going to take you and what the road is. And let's figure out the rules of the game to becoming a firefighter. And so he did just that. And he kept testing his hypothesis. And every time he would test it, it would make him more excited, right? And if it didn't make him more excited, then that'd be more information. And maybe we need to reconsider something. But he did it. He found out, hey, it's going to take me 2 years to be a firefighter. You know, getting his EMT license and all these things and the experience. And I'm like, guess what? 2 years have gone by. And he's a firefighter. And what we did was we went ahead, and it all started from me just listening and trying to understand who he was, what he wanted, and why he wanted it. And once he had that, he had the rest of the tools to take off. So I share that story with you to, again, just show how important it is to just listen to create that growth-minded culture. Here are some of the things that we looked at when we were thinking about self-awareness. And they're all in the journal, so I really encourage you to check it out. I think it's really going to be helpful if you find yourself in a similar position as that student. And we went ahead, and what I want you to do real quick is to think about this. If you're in a position where you're ever stuck, this is what I want you to do. Ask this question. Think about a time when you or your family was at its absolute best. Go back to your best. What did it feel like? What did it sound like? What did it smell like? Go back to those kind of real physical elements of that memory. Take yourself. And then think, well, what's one thing that we can do in our life to go ahead and create that sense of joy or success or health or kindness, whatever it is? What one thing from that we can do? And when I did that, when I was asked this question, I went and thought immediately of my time that my family spends in Montana. My mother-in-law lives there, and I think about the family that we have there and just how it feels, and the smells of the recipes and the music that's in the background, the laughter and the game playing. And you know what's not in that memory? Phones, TV. And so that made me think, well, maybe I need to start to reduce that. Maybe I need to have the music on a little bit more. Maybe I need in my house to spend some time on the front porch and kick it and read a book and just relax every once in a while, right? And so it helped me get back to the mystery, the grace, that memory, and just point it out. So what I'm going to encourage you all is, if you find yourself in a similar position, go ahead and do that. Ask these questions. When we're thinking about creating more self-awareness, here are some ways from the books that I share with you, but also from my own experience of how we help other people do this, right? And we already talked about listen, validate, acknowledge, right? The other thing is creating space, helping create space for other people. When you are a parent, especially if you're a parent of young people or even older kids, right? And you're home around to practice, you don't have a lot of space for yourself. You need to create it. Because that space is going to be a place of grace, right? You're going to find insight in that mental space that we need to create for ourselves. I know in my life, I need to go ahead and create that space by maybe taking my wife out to more dates, right? That's the kind of space that I need to have to bring some more self-awareness into my relationship, into my life, right? But what's yours? How are you going to create space? What do you have? These other areas, bringing good vibes, vibrance, fun, sharing gratitude, practicing mindfulness, discussing the deeper elements of life is something I really don't think we do enough of in our society. Taking on challenges as a family, and then, having a family story. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but having a family story that's really known by those in our family. So the second item is trusting yourself. That's the second path to having a growth mindset in the family and in a successful future, is trusting yourself. I'm convinced of it. Let me tell you 2 stories that I think are going to help illuminate that. The first is when my daughter was born. Okay, she was born facing the wrong way the entire birth, right? It led things to go really fast, and then for the birth process to stop. She was basically stuck in the birth canal, not moving, and the doctors had a tough time being able to measure if she was having a heartbeat or not. And the mood of the room was very tense, very nerve-wracking, very scary. And it was that way for a long time. And it got to a point where, I was actually, doing the whole talking to God thing. God, if you just get her through this situation, get my wife through this situation, I'll do whatever. I will love her however she comes out, right? She ended up not moving throughout the whole birth process. She never flipped. She made it really painful on my wife. It was kind of like a precursor to her personality down the road. Like, hey guys, I got this. I know what I'm doing. And I'm not moving for anyone, right? She's kind of stubborn, but but she's fine now. But what it reminded me, thinking back to that, hey, I will love her however she comes out, made me think, wow, what does it say? That to me says she is incredibly valuable just as she is. Just as she is. And if she's valuable just as she is, no matter how she arrives on this planet, then that means that I am incredibly valuable just as I am. And if I am already infinitely valuable, it allows me then to trust myself, because that means that everything I do in life then is more about me putting the sprinkles on the sundae than actually everything else. I already in the sundae. I just need to put the life sprinkles on it and have fun with that. And take some risks and not be so afraid of not failing or messing up or not going as I wanted it to. That is all part of, I think, how we get it wrong sometimes. And if you can trust yourself, man, oh man, you can go places. And I think that's the kind of attitude we want to instill in our kids. The second, all right, watch this. I had a student, incredible young lady. She was an aerospace engineer, and she was impressive. Like, she tweeted Elon Musk, and he tweeted back to her, like, really cool person, right? She got to her sophomore year in life, kind of shocked her, and it threw her off her game. And really significant life events, right, happened to her, and she had to leave school. But she never really stopped dreaming. She took a class in a community college and then took another class, and for 2 years she kind of stayed out of her college. But she ended up getting back into school, being a woman, person of color, and an aerospace engineer major, which is already incredibly difficult with all these life situations that are trying to knock her back. She graduated and now has an awesome career where she makes way more money than I do. But I asked her later on, I said, hey, how did you get through all of that? What was the thing? Because I always had faith that she would, but I want to know what she thought was the thing. And she said, my dream. I knew that that dream of me being and working in aerospace was so part and hugely consequential to who I am as a person that I couldn't let it go. She trusted her dream, which means she just trusted herself. And she was able to take it forward, even when life was most challenging. So what I want you guys to think about is, what are the core beliefs about life and living that you have? And at the end of the day, what is undeniably true to you? I think that's an important part and an important question that you should have. If you're going to expect your kids to trust themselves, come back to you. Do you trust yourself? And if you do, what's core to you that allows you to do that? Okay? Live and lead from there. Here are my 4. Number 1, your life is no more important or less important than any other life. That means me as an educator is no more or less important than me as a doctor, a lawyer, or me an employee. It doesn't matter. My life is equally important. Your life is equally important, whichever route you take. Truly. The second is your life is infinitely valuable. Nothing you can do will add or subtract from it. The third is you always have a path to presence, and you always have a path to grace. And the fourth is, as long as you are living in alignment with who you are, right? And if you've done the thorough analysis of who you are and what you believe in, if you just live in alignment with that, life will open up for you. It may not always be easy. It may be challenging. It may test you. It may ask you to test yourself on how much you really believe in yourself. But if you do, life will open up to you. The third big main thing is trust your future, okay? I've been able to work with first-generation, low-income students of color who have had to go through so much in their life, right? They've had to get through so much in their life. They've had to, be the first in their family, know how to navigate their experience. They've had to overcome so many cool and challenging problems in their life. But listen, they kept moving forward. They kept on dreaming, and they kept on believing that what they were doing was worth it, even when life maybe tried to doubt them from that way, right? And I think about this often because what they did was they stitched together a parachute of love, where they put together a support network around them, and they were willing to jump out the airplane and trust that parachute. It was stitched together. They had to believe in it, and they did. And that, to me, is the gold standard of trusting your future, is really believing in that parachute that you have on your back, that you're willing to step off and take a risk. That's an important part of having a growth mindset. So what I'm going to ask you is, what's your personal belief around failure, pain, and challenge? Because if your story is off on what failure is, it's going to impact your ability to take a risk. If you believe that failure is permanent, or failure is something that is embarrassing or that you can't show, right? You have to be perfect. You have to be perfect all the time. It's going to completely impact your ability to take risks and grow. And so your family's definition of what failure, pain, and challenge is going to be an important part of what's going to drive your family's growth. And so really ask yourself, if you're the parent, what's your personal belief around these two things? That is going to be taken by your children. They're going to inherit it in one way or another. And so you need to have a really good understanding of what that means to you. So here are some things. Have a language and story around failure, risk, and challenge, right? Take it out of the negative connotation. Normalize your contingency plans. You don't just have to go to school A. School B and school C are also really going to provide a beautiful future for you. It can't just be all in one thing. You have to be able to normalize the other lives that you could potentially have. Doesn't mean that's a worse life. And the last is really understanding that parachute of love, helping them understand it and test it out. If your child cannot ask for help, that to me seems a problem. And let me tell you something. A lot of young people have a very tough time asking for help right now. A lot more than when I was growing up. Really tough for people to ask for help. We've made it so that asking for help is a weakness instead of something that is part of what we do as a family, what we do as a society. We don't burden other people by asking for help. We don't show that we're weaker or less powerful. We empower ourselves when we ask for help. That's what people do. The fourth, I gotta go. I'm falling a little bit behind. I had a student that I worked with from 16, and he we worked through the three main things: self-awareness, trusting yourself, trusting your future. But when he did poorly in one of his sporting events, he couldn't shake it. Couldn't shake it that he didn't do up to his full potential in this sporting event. And we talked about perfectionism. And I said, what can you do that you can't be perfect at? That you just do just because you like doing it? He said, well, I never learned how to surf. I said, that's a cool thing. That would be awesome, because you can't really be perfect at surfing. I mean, maybe but at the highest of levels, just getting on the board and riding it is like an accomplishment, right? It's a super big accomplishment. And he was like, yeah. So I didn't hear from him for a while. And then all of a sudden I get this picture. And he went surfing. He funded it. He went on a trip, went to California, and he learned how to surf. And it changed his perspective around what is really important, right? The process of life, the process of the cycle is what's important, not getting to the end result and doing it perfectly and doing it better than everyone else and feeling that you're special. No, the process and having faith in yourself, that's what's important. And that's what he learned when he went surfing. So I think the biggest thing is, if we want to encourage a family that does this, we have to start by modeling it ourselves, right? We have to be purposeful. We have to be disciplined ourselves. And that's no pressure, right? Because it's really easy to put another thing on parents, right? The other day, my daughter sucked her thumb, and the dentist was like, you gotta, think about stopping that. And he was like, what do you do to stop it? I was like, nothing right now. And he was like, maybe, want to do it. I was like, hey man, I'm just doing my best to survive, but we could definitely try putting some, fingernail polish on it, right? We're all just doing our best, right? But discipline is an important part of growth. And so I need to put the fingernail polish on my daughter's fingers so she tastes like garbage and she doesn't, suck her thumb. But we also, I think, all need to do the small things in life as well. So picking out what is the small thing that we can do to be disciplined ourselves, to share that with our students or our young people or our children, to be able to show like, hey, it's not easy. I don't make the mark all the time, but let's go ahead and try to do a little bit better together. There's some people that, and that habits of happy families, they talk about having family meetings. My kids are a little bit too young to do that just yet, but down the road, that's something that me and my wife definitely want to do, is having family meetings where we hold each other accountable for some of our goals, talk through some of the issues, talk about some of our habits and routines as a family, so that we can kind of create what we want in our little group. So in conclusion, listen, I hope that what you all get out of this is understanding that our dreams are cyclical. We don't just rush to the end. We're always going to be stuck. We just need to have the skills to be able to maneuver ourselves through being stuck, through each phase. So we keep moving forward. We don't give up. We don't say, hey, I have a fixed mindset. I can't do this because I'm not this enough or not that enough. We're comparing ourselves to other people. No, we have to be able to maneuver through those so we can keep maneuvering through those and keep learning and keep taking the gems of life and taking the mystery of life and the grace of life and getting back to the root of that. That's what I hope that you guys get from this conversation today. All right, so here, I'm going to talk to you guys real quick. Listen, we've got a great deal. I usually charge for coaching quite a bit, but I know it's tough out there. And so I'm going to offer 40-minute sessions, $49 per session for coaching, minimum 4 sessions. I'm taking 10 new clients. I work specifically with young people age 16 to 24, high schoolers, college students. I'm not afraid of working with middle schoolers, but they have to be able to be coachable. But anyway, I wanted to offer this to you all today. So if you're interested, go ahead and email me, ryan@ryangradycoaching.com, or just go to www.dreamtrust.us and see if you like what I'm sharing. Okay. So hey, listen, I hope you guys got a lot out of this conversation today. I want to wish you tons and tons of love your way, growth your way. It's not an easy time to navigate, but know that you are cared for. So thank you. Thank you, Monica, for the opportunity. Thank you, American Family, for this opportunity.
Hey Ryan, thanks so much for that. I really appreciate your time with us. You always bring so much wisdom and enlightenment to the discussions that you bring to us, and we greatly appreciate it. We have almost 50 people tuned in right now, and I want to give a sec to see if we have any questions coming in from anybody that is tuning in at the moment. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Awesome. So we have one question. Do you coach adults too, beyond the age range you mentioned?
I do. I've worked with doctors and educators as well, because I think at the end of the day, like all coaching is about your dream, and it's about helping you navigate through that cycle, like I said. And so I think coaching young people is just something that I've liked doing, because I feel like I always would have liked to have a coach at a young age, and to have someone that could help me navigate through some of those insecurities that come with being young. But listen, those exist well into adulthood. I actually worked with a 66-year-old recently, who is looking to retire and to be financially off on his own down the road. And so we talked about that. So I definitely work with a wide variety, but most of my experience has been with young people.
Awesome. The next question we have, are there any books, resources for perfectionism that you know of?
Wow, that is a really great question. I don't, but if they email me off the top of my head, but if you email me that email right there, I will respond, because I've read quite a few. I just need to, it's off the top of my head, I don't have anything. I also have a friend who just wrote a book recently that I think could be a good resource, but I need to go back. So definitely email me and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. And the last question we have time to answer is, any tips for overcoming fears of success?
Fear of actually succeeding, right? And actually having the life that you want, because maybe it's gonna separate you from other people in your life, things like that, I'm guessing. Or you're going to actually be successful, you're going to get to where you want to go, and it's not going to be what you thought it was going to be. I think there's a lot of different things. I think the tip is talk about it. I think talk about it with people and to really look into that fear. I think the best way to get on the other side of fear is to get through it. You gotta get through it. You gotta feel it, get through it, shrink it to what it really is. Because a lot of times those things are just way bigger than they really are.
All right, Anne, I have one question for you. What one bit of advice would you offer to someone that is currently pursuing a dream?
Oh, man, surround yourself with other people and other people that have big dreams. Create a community around yourself of other dreamers who are willing to get vulnerable and to get serious about it, because then you'll see that you're not alone in some of the challenges that come with that.
Awesome. This was all very helpful and great advice. We again really appreciate your time and all of the wisdom that you bring to our community of dreamers every time you're here. So thanks again for your time and everything that you're doing for our families and students as they're making this transition into whatever the next step in their lives are.
Thanks, Monica. Appreciate you always. And thanks to everyone else who made this possible.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate your attention and for attending this webinar. If you have other questions for myself, you are able to reach me at mmims@amfam.com. That's MMIMS@amfam.com. Ryan's contact information is right here. And stay tuned for make sure you tune in to our information for our Dream Summit. Dream Summit 2022 is coming up. It's October 12th and 13th. It's full of inspiring information from inspiring people across the world, and we look forward to having you here with us. Thank you all again for tuning in. Keep dreaming fearlessly.